welcome to High School Life Group Night in Homes. This is week 2 of our Lost and Found series. We're going to be diving in, no pun intended, but we're doing dumpster diving today into the prodigal son. So stay tuned for that. A couple of announcements before we get going. Next week, we are back in the Annex for High School Night. We're going to be kicking off a new series coming off of Lost and Found called Look and See. We don't want you to miss that. So be at the Annex, 6:30 to 8 o'clock next Sunday night. Also, our mission trip to Washington Park is completely full. So we're excited about the team of 20 that we're going to be taking to Metro East in March. And seniors, we got special news coming up for you. We're going to be throwing out an announcement video really soon for all of our seniors. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, have a great group tonight. So I lost my retainer in middle school, and it was awful, seriously awful. You see, I got this retainer when I was in 7th grade. I had to wear it all day, every day, except when I was eating, of course. And I would always take it out and wrap it in a napkin to eat. And I would wrap it in a napkin because it was all slobbery and gross, and no one wanted to see that as they're eating lunch. So like every day, this one particular day, I took out my retainer, wrapped it in a napkin, and then stuck it on my lunch tray. Now, normally when I finished eating, I would take the retainer out of the napkin, put it back in my mouth, then throw away my tray of trash. But this one particular day, I got up from my table, took my tray to the trash can, and dumped it all in the trash. Then I threw my tray on the conveyor belt and went on with my day. It wasn't until I got home after school that I realized I didn't even have my retainer. When my mom got home, I told her that I lost my retainer. She asked me where I had it last, and I told her at lunch. She said, "Did you throw it away?" And I said, "I must have." In my mind, I thought, whoops, no more retainer, or now I have to go get a new one. In my mom's mind, that was not at all what she was thinking. She said, "Get in the car." I thought, okay, to go get a new retainer? We proceeded to drive, but not to the orthodontist, but back to the school. Now, I don't know if my mom was trying to teach me a responsibility lesson, or she just didn't want to spend the money on a new retainer, but we walked into the cafeteria and she asked the lunch lady where the trash from the day was, because my retainer was in there. The lunch lady pointed out to the dumpster out back. And sure enough, my mom had me jump in the dumpster and start looking through the tons of bags of trash of leftover middle school cafeteria food to find my retainer wrapped in a napkin. It was both the grossest and most humiliating thing I'd ever done. Now, after what felt like an eternity of rummaging through half-eaten pizzas and cartons of milk and unfolding a gazillion napkins, lo and behold, a miracle. I found my retainer. The sheer joy that came over me when I unwrapped that napkin that held my retainer was about as real as it could be. I found it against all odds. I undid my mistake. Let's throw a party. Then it hit me. My mom wanted me to still wear this thing. She went home. We boiled it in water for the rest of the day. It was awful. See, last week we started our series Lost and Found, and we looked at the parable of the lost coin. We talked about how there are times it's easy for us to feel worthless, either because of something we did or maybe even how we were treated. But the truth is, Jesus values you more than you know. In fact, he relentlessly focuses on the lost so that they can be found. You see, our value doesn't come from what we do or who others say that we are, but rather from Jesus. And he showed our value by dying on the cross for us, for you. You see, Jesus celebrates when someone who is lost gets found. But what about if you've been found but wander off? What do we do when we feel a little lost? Sometimes we feel lost because Maybe we don't feel noticed or seen. We don't feel valuable. We know we've messed up and aren't sure how to fix it. Today, we're going to hear the story of a young man who lost everything because of his mistakes and how we're sometimes a lot like him. See, many of you know this story of the prodigal son. Luke 15:11 through 19. Let's read that real quick. And this is where we're going to be tonight. Luke 15:11 through 19. It is really hard to turn the pages when your hands are frozen. Let me tell you, I didn't realize how frozen my hands are until just now. All right, Luke, oh my goodness, Luke 19, Luke 18, Luke 12. All right, here we go. Luke 15, 11 through 19. That's really not that cold. This is all a green screen. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went there and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' See, even though the son had safety, food, and money at home, he was dreaming of going to this distant land where he imagined he could, 1, do whatever he wanted to do, 2, spend his money and have some fun, and 3, find everything he thought he was missing at home. You see, I think we can probably all find some things we have in common with his son. First of all, he was impulsive. He made a big decision, apparently, without getting any guidance or wisdom from others. 2, is hurtful. He may not have meant it this way, but his actions and words hurt his dad. By asking for his inheritance early, it's like he was saying, Dad, you're worth more to me dead than alive. So give me that money so that I don't have to depend on you or have a relationship with you anymore. 3, it was selfish. By not stopping to reflect how his actions might be hurtful to his family, the son was acting selfishly. He cared only about his money and his big adventure, not the people who loved him. See, for a while, the son lived the kind of life he dreamed about until he couldn't anymore. The famine came, and people lost jobs, and he struggled to find food, and he worked for a pig farmer. He ate whatever the pigs ate. He had thrown away everything that had been good in his life. He had lost his family, his money, his livelihood, and maybe even his faith. You see, because of his own bad decisions, he found himself disconnected from others and from God. He was probably filled with shame for what he had done and fear about what he needed to do next. Desperate, he decided to go home, not as a son, but hoping to become a servant in his father's house. Let me read the rest of this story here in Luke 15, verses 20 through 24. It says this, So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. What a response. Can you imagine being welcomed home like this? After wasting his money, disgracing his father, and bringing shame on himself and his family, his father is still filled with love and compassion for him. The father runs to his son to hug him and kiss him. You know what? I was that retainer. And maybe you're that retainer. You were fine, but the next thing you know, you're tossed in the trash. How you got there, it could be a million different reasons. Somebody tossed you in there. Maybe you tossed yourself in there. And all reasoning says it's gone. It's not worth it. There's no way it can be restored. I own the retainer and I wanted nothing to do with it at that point. But Jesus still sees value in what we claim as trash. He dives into the dumpster and won't stop searching until you're found. And he welcomes you back. So when you've made decisions or mistakes that have led you far from God, I hope you'll remember that the son in this story discovered about his father. When you feel lost, Jesus welcomes you back.